We are recording.
I see that. It says recording up in the.
Yeah. I'm just stalling because I had no cold open this time.
Oh,
So it's a little hot. Weather's
is
good
it?
today. That's why I got this whole thing. Weather's good today. Little warm, but we're gonna get like a whole almost week of uh having the house open. So I like that.
Oh, okay. Good.
After the crazy rain and everything, yeah, we had it open last night and then today, and yeah, I think maybe Tuesday I'm gonna have to close it up again, but that's nice.
Yep.
I like that you wore a shirt that matches your wall. I need to do more of that.
I'm pretty sure I've worn this shirt before, even in the video.
In the video?
Yeah,
We haven't done that many.
I think I have.
One of your major recording shirts. I
It's just
genuinely don't recall ever having seen that shirt in my life.
it's just an A&W root beer shirt.
Oh, is it?
It has a whole bunch of A&W stuff on it.
It's a very cool shirt. I do like the shirt.
Yep.
It's just the same color as the wall.
In fact, I think the last several times I've worn, the last time I was wearing an A&W shirt because you talked about the P guard blocking. You could see it in the camera a little bit, and it blocked the A&W logo. And I've got another shirt for the 100th anniversary, which was last year. And I didn't actually
last
buy.
week was the thing with the P guard. So
Yeah, I
you're
was
just
wearing
wearing
it.
A&W shirts every time we record.
Yeah, well, it's because I've got so many of them. Because I didn't buy this one. My brother bought it and it didn't fit him, so he gave it to me. But I've got so many A&W shirts because of the 100th anniversary last year that
How many? Give me a number. How many? Not of what an anniversary. I know what it is. How many A&W shirts do you have?
I only have 3 new ones, but I think I already had 2. I might have only had one already, so maybe I just have 4.
That's a lot.
It's enough that I have often been
That
on
is
camera
more
with
than I would expect someone who has never worked for the company of A&W to have.
Yeah, I've got quite a few. My mom liked to buy me A&W stuff. I've got a lot of A&W stuff that I got from her. Right up here, I've got on my bookshelf, I've got some A&W bottles and things.
There's a tendency people do where if you like a thing, people think you'll like anything associated with it.
Mm-hmm.
So like you like turtles, so every Christmas you get something with turtles. And I understand it, especially when it's somebody that's hard to shop for, but it does get taken to extremes, I think, in
Like you
some
with
families
bacon?
and things. Well, and that one hit a point where we were all like, okay, this is cool. We need to stop now. But then, for instance, both my in-laws, my father-in-law, every single Christmas I've known him, and many Christmases before that, easily 80 to 90% of his Christmas gifts from anyone are stuff with dragons. He just likes dragons.
Oh yeah, I do too.
And my mother-in-law, if something has a snowflake on it, we get her for it, or references snow or has a snowman. And the thing is, it's not a problem because they seem to love them. But like, were I them, I would get annoyed. And I have been on the receiving end of such things before, where I'm like, this is cool for a while, and then after a few years, I'm like, how many of these am I getting?
I've not yet gotten tired of.
Root beer shirts?
Well, let's see. So mom used to buy me. Another thing is, you notice I'm not wearing headphones.
Me
So
neither.
I'm a little.
We're doing this all natural.
I hope you're not being picked up by my microphone because that might be annoying for people.
Hey, Mike, how are you doing?
Should I get my headphones in case or?
You sound fine to me.
Okay. My mom
Usually,
used
if
to
there's a crap like that during a Zoom meeting, you'll hear it in the Zoom meeting.
Okay. My mom used to buy me A&W stuff. I never got tired of that. She also used to buy me stuff with clowns in them. Never got tired of that.
Wait,
My
wait,
brother.
wait. I mean, first of all, straight up nightmare fuel. But second of all,
I like clowns.
you specifically said with clowns in them,
Yeah, like I have a
not
painting.
on them,
Well, like
but
I was
like
thinking.
things that inside had a clown.
Yeah, I was thinking of two things in particular. That there, I have a painting with clowns that I could probably show you. I don't have it right here. I have a painting with clowns that does tend to freak people out. I like it, but it tends to freak people out. And I have this little music box type thing with a clown in it. But I also have. She also got me a bank, one of those. A bank that you put a coin in and you press a button and something happens.
Oh no! What happens?
A
Does
dog.
it poop out?
You put the you put the coin in a dog's mouth, and then when you press the lever, the dog jumps through a hoop that the clown is holding.
But the clown is visible the whole time.
Yeah.
Because like popular right now are the ones with the cats that are like in a box and the box lid opens and it like nabs the coin. And if there was a clown version of that, I would lose my shit in a bad way.
No, she used to like to give me that kind of stuff. And my brother Scott, just about all of the Batman stuff I have is from him. Never got tired of that. I have a Kermit the Frog statue here that our friend Mick got me years ago. So I've got a lot of stuff that people, who know what I like have bought me this stuff, but I've never felt like they bought me too much of it, even though.
No, but you're describing a diverse situation. Imagine that all the people you just mentioned only got you Batman stuff.
Well, see,
plus me, plus everybody else, just Batman.
The big problem with me in getting the real reason I've gotten all this stuff from other people is because I don't buy this stuff for myself.
That's often how that works.
And but I mean, what I mean is I don't like, even if I see some Batman.
You actually hate clowns, Kermit, and Batman, but people keep
if I see this stuff in a store, I might like it, but I won't buy it because my thinking process is, where am I going to put this thing? What am I going to do? It's not like I really have a lot of space to display it or whatever. For a long time, I just was really kind of into not having a lot of stuff. I mean, for many years, I could put everything that I owned in a car, and move in it. I didn't have to have a truck. I didn't have to have people help me. I didn't have to have, my possessions were very low in number.
Your damn loved ones kept giving you presents.
But see, when they do it, even though it does sometimes cause those kinds of problems where I don't have anywhere to put it.
To the exact same degree.
What's that?
Physical space does not care who purchased it.
No, I know, but for some reason when they do it, I don't mind so much. Like if I did it, I'd kick myself every time I saw the thing, sitting in a drawer or gathering dust at the bottom of my
birthday gift to you is I'm going to break into your house and steal some of your shit so you have more room.
And I might not even notice it's gone for a really long time.
That's my plan.
But yeah, I mean, but when someone else gets it for me, it's such a nice gesture. I really appreciate that. But even some of these.
You heard it here. Give gifts to William, and he will love them, no matter how much they fuck up his life.
I think I've purchased all of these books, though. I mean, there is some books here that I haven't.
I'm going to get you 7 full drum kits.
Yeah, that would sit in the garage for sure.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Magical Talking Hat podcast, the only podcast in the world that is still pondering why my deodorant has a label about the dangers of asphyxiation on it. I'm Tony. He forgot who he was.
No, I'm thinking about why you're.
We got to finish the bit and then we can talk about it.
Oh,
I'm Tony.
I'm William, and this is episode 482.
I love how you keep looking as though I'm going to give you signal on the number.
I'm just trying to figure out.
I do have a theory.
Oh, okay.
Sort of. So the deodorant, I have a very specific deodorant that is not always available in stores, but is available on Amazon, like in bulk. So we'll get these like 6-packs of them, and they're shrink wrapped in plastic. And I think a machine puts the sticker on the plastic, but it's the kind of shrink wrap where the ends are still open. And so I think the machine missed and just hit the deodorant.
Oh.
But I don't know. All I know is this morning I went to reach for my deodorant and there's this giant orange sticker on the back and it's like, warning, asphyxiation. I'm like, what? It's a stick deodorant. How is this? But it does mention like plastic bags and shit, though.
Oh, okay. So it's probably the plastic bag.
I think it wasn't a plastic bag around it, but it was wrapped in plastic. So like, I think that could be it.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, but it weirded me out. That's for sure. So for those of you just joining us, whether on the YouTubes or just the Sound Clowns, we should explain how this works. We have a hat. It's just off camera here. It's magical. It has its own email address, themagicaltalkinghat@gmail.com. And folks who, once again, we could use some help here. Cool folks, wonderful folks with a few seconds to burn. Write in to that email address, themagicaltalkinghat@gmail.com, with little notes, topics, questions, comments, things like that. It's apparently passed out. The hat magically on its own transmogrifies those emails into little note cards with the information written on them that manifest physically with the hat itself. It's currently talking and also passed out and dead, maybe, I'm not sure. Servants, you weren't moving. You like had fallen forward and just weren't moving. We draw the note cards out of the hat at random, read them on the air, talk about them till we're bored. Do that for about an hour. That's the whole show, except the parts that aren't, which is most of it. What were you doing?
Well, I'm thinking maybe if I adjust the volume.
You sound fine. Do
Okay.
I sound weird to you?
No.
Then I would say you risk making it worse by messing with it.
Okay.
It sounds fine.
No, you're right. Sorry.
What'd you say? I can't hear you. You sound a mess. So how's your week been?
Well, as you know, found out that the Iowa State Fair is canceled.
Yeah.
That's probably the biggest news.
That's a bummer. They did a really tear-jerking, heart-string-pulling video about it, too.
Yeah, and that's how I found out about it, too. The governor...
That's a rough way to do it.
Yeah, well, that's what I thought. The governor...
That's how I found out, because some jerk sent it to me, wanted to see me cry.
Shut up. The governor had spoken. I mean, had a. She doesn't talk. She doesn't have a daily address anymore. It's like twice a week. And she just earlier that day she'd talked about COVID-19 and things like that. And someone asked, a question and answer period. Someone asked if she'd talked to the State Fair people, and she said she had, and she indicated that they hadn't decided anything. And one of the issues that they had talked about was several of the people they had lined up for the fair, for the grandstand,
were like, hell no.
Yeah, they weren't coming. So, there was, I got from that, from what she said, that there was, I think, some concern that, that if the fair were to go on for a variety of reasons, they would lose money.
I honestly would have been appalled if they had done it.
Oh, well.
Like, that would have been so incredibly irresponsible.
Yeah, my personal feeling was that they should not do it. I wasn't surprised that they decided not to do it. But see, that video was a pretty well put together video.
No, it was very nice.
And it makes me think, well, there was only a few hours separation between, several hours.
I got to admit, the video had a mildly confusing aspect to it. Because they did not say we are canceling the 2020 Iowa State Fair. They said they're postponing it until August of next year. And I'm like, that's next year's fair. You're canceling this one.
Yeah, that was weird.
And I understand you don't want to be like, because of COVID, we will never have the state fair again. I understand you want to avoid that, but this isn't a postponement of the 2020 state fair. Because the second I was like, oh, are they going to do it in like November or something?
September, yeah.
Like, what is that? But no, yeah.
Well, and like I told you, even though I kind of wanted them to do it and I anticipated they were going to do it, when they finally did it, man, it really upset me more than I thought it would.
And I thought this was a very interesting point when you brought this up. This comes up with people a lot, I think. And I think it's important to note that things can be good and right and as they should be, and can even be expected, and can still suck. And it's like perfectly fine and normal to feel that way. And in this case, like, you knew it was coming, but there's always a hope, you know, the decision hasn't been made. And even if you try and convince yourself or whatever, some part in the back of your head is like, something amazing will happen, you know, the vaccine will happen next week and then we can do it or whatever. And so when it happens, it's like, yes, of course, as it should have, as I would have been upset if it didn't. And yet this sucks.
Well, and also
that it sucks.
Also, I think I was far too busy thinking about whether or not it should happen, whether or not it would happen. I was thinking far more about that than actually preparing myself for it happening.
Yeah.
So there was no part of me that was ready for that announcement.
Yeah.
And
people just get caught up in the right and wrong, which is a wholly subjective thing, but is a thing people have, doesn't necessarily flow on the same axis as pleased or displeased or happy or sad.
Yeah.
And that it's perfectly okay not to.
Well, it also made me think about how, I mean, there have been times where I couldn't go to the fair in a given year, but I think I derived quite a bit of satisfaction just from knowing it was still happening.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's a way different sadness between William won't get a veggie corn dog this year, and thousands of people will miss out on the fun. Many of them will miss out on the business opportunities that they create. Many children have achieved some really cool shit that they won't get to show off now. That's a tragedy.
Yeah.
It's a necessary and obvious one, and nobody's dying from it, but it sucks. And it doesn't suck because you can't go. I don't give a shit if you can go. But it sucks in a broader sense.
Right.
I think I can speak for everyone when I say nobody cares if you get to the state fair.
Okay.
But we share your pain on behalf of people who aren't you.
Yeah.
Maybe your wife, I don't know. Talk to her about it. I don't care. But
I mean, there were other things that happened, but that was a
Did you watch Vast of Night?
Oh, yeah.
I really want your take on that.
Oh, I did like it.
Wow. That is a weird opening move.
What? Isn't that what
tone, mostly. Like, you built in a butt just immediately. Well, I did like it.
Well, I mean, I didn't mean to do that.
You're already starting off apologizing to me, like, from jump.
No, it was more of a, you anticipated that I might like it, and I'm saying I did like it.
All right.
I wasn't actually going to have a butt in there.
All right.
It was, I thought it was very cleverly done. I mean, like you, I mean, there must have been some budgetary, I mean, they did such, I mean, there was nothing really that I could see. Maybe I wasn't paying very good attention, but usually I do pay good attention to those types of things. Almost nothing that gave away that it wasn't in the time period that they were going for.
I have since watched a review of it from a guy who does Dark Corners reviews, who normally does bad movies, but during quarantine he's been doing like, here's some good movies streaming that you can watch while you're stuck inside. And he did this, and he said it was done on a very low budget, and it absolutely does not look like it was done on a low budget.
No, it was, and you know, you can kind of, that was the weird thing about it is you could, maybe this is the filmmaker in me that noticed this, but you could see things they did, creative choices they made that were probably somewhat connected to their low budget, but it worked. It wasn't like,
Yeah. They came up with creative stuff within their restrictions.
yeah, exactly. That's exactly right.
Well, and crap that I didn't even notice. I think I noticed it once, but there are 3 times in that movie where they fade to black, and it's not the end of a scene or anything. It's just so you'll focus on what's being said.
Yeah.
And the long shots, like a long shot is one of those things that like everybody thinks it's brilliantly artistic to do, but it's so easy to do poorly. And this movie did some amazing things with it, things that I didn't even notice until I was going through the review, and I'm like, oh yeah, like the scene with her at the switchboard. That's 9 minutes straight of a single unmoving shot, including parts where no one is speaking.
Right. I told my wife when that scene finally cut, I told her, I said, wow, that was amazing.
Yeah.
I was so impressed with, I mean, they were committed. I mean, they put that camera there.
They're like, you're going to watch this. It might not be exciting, but you're going to see what she sees. Like, you're here.
I thought it was not only was it a bold move, but it completely worked.
Absolutely.
One of their long shots, tracking shots, I think was her. I don't want to say it wrong, but someone was walking from one part of the town to the other, and the camera just stayed with them.
Yeah.
And
but it also had some really interesting POV movement shots.
Yeah.
That went very quick. Like this was the only way this person knew how to shoot. Like they had a variety of styles.
Right.
Now, okay. Tell me if you agree on this. In an ideal world, it would have been shorter, I feel. At somewhere in the last third, I probably could have cut a decent chunk of it. It just, at a certain point, it did actually start to drag a little for me.
Not for me at all.
Oh,
really.
wow. Okay.
I mean, I don't,
absolutely forgivable. I've still been recommending it, but
yeah. The reason I liked the shot that followed, I think, her from the switchboard to somewhere was it gave this fantastic sense of space to the town they were in. I mean, it really reinforced, it made you feel like you were in the events in real time. I mean, usually when you're watching a narrative, it just cuts from one location to the other.
Yeah.
You don't really know how much time has passed. And sometimes they cheat, it's like something's happening in the daytime, and then when they cut to the next shot, it's already night. You're like, wow, did it take them 6 hours to walk across town? It's already dark.
Because there's a ton of elaborate and obvious camera work to achieve a very naturalistic feel. And I don't know how they managed to ride that fence, sort of.
The only thing I remember
is doing all sorts of things, but it makes it all feel very present and real.
Yeah. The only thing that sort of took me out of it was a couple times they switched to a
TV vision.
Yeah, I didn't always follow that or understand.
I don't know. I mean, well, that was the initial premise. We came in on a television to start with. I mean, I didn't dislike it, but you're right in that I didn't really see the point.
Yeah, I didn't really get it.
I think maybe we just wanted to lean on, because the whole thing was so clearly an homage to Twilight Zone, Outer Limits, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And we were sort of wanting to push that, I guess. I don't know. I didn't notice because I wasn't paying good enough attention. There are little references in there. The radio station is WOTW for War of the Worlds. And Cayuga, which I thought was a real town, it sounded familiar. It's from not War of the Worlds, but it's from another one of those classic B movies. It's set in a town called Cayuga. So yeah, they had little bits like that.
I mean, the gymnasium looked.
Well, we spent 20 minutes before we got anything remotely spooky. We spent 20 minutes just hanging out one evening in a 1950s town. And it really enveloped you in the setting before we started into the weird shit. Yeah, I did have to turn on the captions because between the sort of drawl and the speed at which he was talking, about a minute in, I was like, I can't tell most of what he's saying. Let's back up and put on the captions. And then
yeah, I had that experience too.
Also, I don't know if I really meant to talk about this or not, but the main two characters are a girl that we learn is 16, I
Yes,
believe.
16. Yep, that's what she said.
Explicitly said that she is 16.
Yeah.
And a young man who is the local radio DJ who is an adult. He's a young adult, but I would say he's definitely in the 20s somewhere.
Yep.
And there is, I think, demonstrably two-way romantic tension between them. And yet it's not creepy at all to me. It felt very, again, natural and not weird. Like, nobody's being exploitive or coercive or anything. She clearly has a crush on him. And in fact, clearly several people know that. And there are just a couple of times where you get the vibe that, like, he likes that she likes hanging out with him.
Yeah.
And that he's not used to hanging out with girls and that this is fun. But it never, so few projects would do that without making it a thing that then made you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like, nobody acts on it, nobody does anything inappropriate. There's just this vibe, and it's not, I mean, this 20-something should not date this 16-year-old.
Right.
There's no question about that. But, like, there's something that doesn't feel weird about, like, he genuinely likes hanging out with her and likes that she likes hanging out with him. And, you know, it's not like they're best friends who hang out normally. They hang out under extreme circumstances. But, like, it felt, there was a genuine sort of tension there that didn't feel creepy. And I feel like not only is that hard to pull off, no filmmaker bothers. You're either not going to have that vibe at all, like these people just couldn't less be interested, or it's going to become an issue and make me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
They really, I hate saying all the time because I was born in 77, but they just really seem to get a realistic vibe of a 1950s town.
That was really impressive how they did that.
Yeah. But it's a slow burn, people. And
yeah,
you don't hit any new territory plot-wise.
No.
You do it for the atmosphere and for the character and for the performances.
Well, and for the film craft. I mean, there's definitely
First and foremost.
Yeah, if you like seeing someone do something interesting visually or with camera movement or all of the things they did just from a film craft perspective.
A lot of playing with space, being inside cramped places, being outside vast spaces,
and light. I mean,
yes,
it's dark, and it's dark outside. A
real low-level organic use of special effects.
Yeah,
it didn't. We eventually do have some genuine sci-fi special effects, and they don't feel out of place.
No, and they don't feel low budget either.
No. Again, they did so much with what they did.
Pretty impressive. And the acting was quite good. And it's like, yeah, this works. This is pretty impressive. Yep.
I don't know why. So there's a big motif of Faye running everywhere because that's what she does.
Yeah, that's right.
Coincidentally, she's frequently running while somebody else is getting in a car and driving. Several times we kept being worried that suddenly the story was going to take a turn when somebody accidentally ran her over.
Oh.
Especially the first time she ran because he jumped in the car and tried to hurry after her. And just somehow the way it was shot, Trish and I independently were like, oh shit, he's going to hit her with his car. Luckily, that's not how the story goes, but.
She could run too.
Weird. Yeah.
Must be, and I don't know if in real life she must have been like a track person because she.
It was all on a treadmill. It was a trick.
She could really run.
Treadmill in front of a 1950s green screen.
And do you suppose they got someone to teach them how the whole switchboard thing worked? Because I bought it. I totally bought that.
I'm wondering. I'm like, that's one of those moments where most of us just buy it. And then people who really know, one of two things happens there. Either the person who knows how those switchboards work is like, this is so awesome. They got this little tiny detail right. Or the person who knows how those switchboards work is like, no, that's bullshit. I know you guys think it looks cool, but that is not at all how that would work. And I literally found myself in the moment wondering which it was.
Yeah, I
Because
did too.
it's perfectly believable to me, but I haven't worked an old-time wired switchboard ever. And she was very detailed and precise in how she did it.
She sold it for
So
sure.
either it's spot on and like actual operators would be like, that's cool that they got that detail, or they just really flim-flammed us and real operators would be like, that's dumb.
But
That's
she
not
didn't
how
just
that is.
she didn't just sell it. She sold it, like you said, in a very long camera sitting in one place shot.
Yeah.
A lot of times the way you sell someone doing something like that is you don't really show them doing it.
You toss
Right.
out an obscure thing is a way you cheat out a lot.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, they're going to mention this thing, which only somebody who did that would actually know, or something like that.
But the
You
camera's
saw it for a
sitting
long time.
the camera's sitting there. You can see what she's doing.
And
she-
my assumptions kept changing because I'm like, wait, but she pulled that cord out. I thought you need, oh no, I guess it works like this way. But slowly in my head processing, I mean, and it was internally consistent. Whether or not it was accurate, it was internally consistent.
Yeah, that was impressive.
I know because I was watching it for 9 minutes.
I'm not so sure about the radio station work though, because I've actually worked in a radio station, and there's sometimes I was like, wait a minute, what did he just do? So I'm not sure about that. But they also didn't have a camera just looking at him doing it either.
No. The reel-to-reel thing freaked me out a little bit when he just would on there. And I'm not saying that's not real. I'm just like saying that seems really not a nice way to handle your reel-to-reel stock.
Yeah, well, I mean, the
I
way
love, though, because early on they're recording the game, and Trish and I are like, so they just play the game on the radio later, even though everybody was at the game? And then later in the movie, she's like, so people really listen to it tomorrow on the radio, even though they already know what happened?
yeah.
And I'm like, we were thinking that.
Now that reel to reel thing, that I mean, a lot of usually the first several feet of
Okay,
the
that's
tape
thing.
is
If
just
you
all
have enough
mangled
lead, it makes sense. But it just creeped me out because he would just be like, wind.
Yeah, that is kind of a thing. Which when he was doing that, I remember thinking, he does look like someone who has done that a lot. So I don't know
No,
if he had to practice.
Verisimilitude was definitely a thing for this movie.
Yeah, it was pretty impressive. Pretty impressive.
But they could fool us because we were all born after the 1950s.
Right,
So,
but I mean, I've actually seen people using reel to reels and things like that. So
yeah.
the radio part I have a little experience with, but yeah, not the switchboard thing. I have no idea.
And because of the 50s, shit ton of smoking.
Yeah.
Just all over the place.
Yeah. It's pretty good. Yeah, I liked it. I mean, it was definitely worth seeing. Anyone who likes to see some interesting filmmaking, you should definitely watch it. I mean, even if you don't get into the theme or the characters or whatever, I think
just from a film craft perspective, it's very cool.
I think
but
the film craft will
we got into the whole thing. The actors are really good. They sold it.
Yeah, they really did.
Sold it. Anything else this week?
I mean,
probably. Okay.
Let's just get into your week.
We had gaming this week and it went pretty well. Like we had my game, my Blades in the Dark game.
Good.
It went pretty off the rails crazy in a fun way. That game is I really am enjoying that game and that system. It really feels right. Like we're slowly building the characters and the world just through the actions, and the system really lends itself to being creative with your options, and I really like it. And I don't have much to prepare beforehand, so I get to experience it also. Met up with folks for a little while, socially distance wise, not too much. Work, I think I've mentioned that some stuff is coming up at work. We're doing a lot of measures we're losing a bunch of money because everybody is because of the pandemic. And so we're doing some measures to sort of recoup that. And rather than just start laying people off and crap, my company is being cool and they're giving some completely voluntary options for people to reduce hours or take a leave of absence or leave the company with a pretty good severance package. And we had to set all that up, and mine's now official and everything. I am going to be taking a leave of absence basically all fall, basically starting September 7th and going for 3 months. Trish will keep working her full time. I'm actually kind of excited about it. I mean, it's costing us money, but we've worked it out in the budget. We're going to make it work. And in the meantime, I'm going to be here to work on the house because the house is a disaster and there's just lots of stuff that needs to be done, making it more livable. And I'm going to work on the final draft of Odd Wings and selling Odd Wings while writing the sequel to Odd Wings.
Wow.
So
that's all very ambitious.
Yeah, and I think there's a good opportunity there for things. So I'm actually kind of excited. I feel bad because a lot of other people are having to make these decisions as the breadwinners in their household and what that means for them and all that. So it's hard for them, but I'm kind of excited for that. We haven't been watching a lot. I think I said we watched the ended second season of Fleabag, and that was good. I like second season more than I like first season. I liked first season. But the show's so weird and coming from a strange perspective that second season is better because you know what you're getting into. I can't remember. Did you guys ever watch that?
I don't remember how many episodes we watched, but we didn't get through.
It's not something I would consider your thing.
It wasn't really.
No, and it's tricky because I liked it, but also didn't like. I liked it, but could only watch so much at a time. Because it is very much one of those shows where everyone in it sucks.
Yeah.
Including and perhaps especially the protagonist, and that complicates things. But yeah, we finished that up. We've started watching Space Force. I say started watching. I think we're 6 episodes out of 10 through Space Force.
Oh.
You know of this?
Yeah, we watched the pilot. I don't think my wife's interested in watching any more of it.
I can get that. When we finished the first episode, I said I was happy to stop, but if Trish wanted to keep watching, I would watch it with her.
Yeah.
It has grown on me. It comes down to this for a large part. When it's good, it's really good. The writing has some great moments, and especially as it goes on, Steve Carell and John Malkovich actually have pretty impressive chemistry.
Yeah.
But it takes a while to do, and it still has dumb stuff. It's just, so there's comedy that's meant to sort of be realistic and sympathetic and relatable, and then there's like whack-ball comedy. Arrested Development is comedy where it's like you're not relating to any of this, and you're not supposed to. This is just like the craziness is part of what makes it funny.
Right.
And there's a huge space in between, and there's really a spot in that continuum that annoys the shit out of me, where we're clearly supposed to be invested and related, but then they do sweepingly terrible things because it's crazy. So and Steve Carell's character in general is a constant struggle for me. When he's good, he's great, but we've established him as an idiot, and yet then there's a scene where he effectively and clearly is helping his daughter with trigonometry, and I'm like, I understand he's a 4-star general from the Air Force and therefore better know trigonometry, but everything I have seen of this man tells me he is not good at math. And then just shit where there's there's a couple of times where he's very suspect of a scientist because he's of Chinese descent. And it's usually a joke because his suspicions are incredibly unfounded and usually cause him embarrassment when he follows up on them. But it's still, I'm like, this guy is just being blanket racist here. That's not funny to me.
Yeah.
But otherwise, we're really supposed to like him. And we do. They do a lot of endearing, sympathetic stuff. I'm now also thinking Steve Carell only really knows how to play one character, because this character on paper is so different from Michael Scott from The Office, and so often feels like Michael Scott from The Office. And that's a problem because I fucking hate Michael Scott from The Office. I think he's a garbage person who did not deserve a happy ending and sucks. So that's difficult for me. Malkovich is like, everybody in this is like, Ben Schwartz is playing what, again, I think maybe the only part Ben Schwartz can play, but he's doing it really well. There's a lot of good casting elements here. A couple of characters in particular are written for really well. And it's 10 episodes, you know? That's the big thing too. I'm like, it'll get resolved. I don't like the whole thing is a satire of the real thing of President Trump creating a branch of the military called Space Force.
Yeah.
If ever there was something worthy of satirizing. But sometimes they get into the politics and poke fun at the president and stuff, and I again hit in that thing where I'm like, I don't find him funny because he's horrible and he's running the country. I don't like laughing at him. So that gets tricky, but I'm getting into it. I mean, I think it's good. It's very popular. Most people think it's really good.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, I would say definitely if you're out there and you're going to give it a try, go past the pilot at least. But I mean, it's short. They're half-hour episodes. And yeah, it's in general, I come out of an episode being like, oh, it was okay. But there were moments that I laughed my ass off every episode.
Yeah.
The second one especially gets goofy. Where we're trying to deal, we have a tight deadline to fix something on a satellite, and our only assets nearby are a different satellite that have a chimpanzee and a dog in it. So we literally are trying to teach them to go on a spacewalk and fix, like, because Steve Carell's character thinks this is actually the best option, and that the usual gimmick is the head scientist, John Malkovich, is very smart, very smug, and very sort of pacifist in a way, like in terms of, he's very opposed to the military-industrial complex. And Steve Carell is old school military. And so we constantly have one side, they constantly are coming from completely opposite directions, and it's frequently one of those where, well, you know, sometimes this person is actually right and sometimes this person is actually right, and sometimes, you know, and we're not so different after all, kind of things. But sometimes it gets really hilarious. They're brainstorming ideas and they pull out one note that just says bomb, and they're like, what? And Steve Carell's like, well, you know, let's speculate on that. What, you know, would it be a small bomb or a big bomb? And they're finally like, we have a limited time. I think whoever wrote this is going to have to extrapolate for us. And it turns out Carell just, and he's like, that's usually what the answer was in the Air Force, was a bomb. Like, how would a bomb work here? He's like, I don't know. So you get that kind of thing going. But when it's good, it's good. I think it's potentially worth watching, but I also think it's potentially worth skipping. So do whatever. But it's a good, if half-hour show you don't have to think about. It's nice. All right, should we draw a thing?
Sure.
I'm trying to think. I have watched a few movies, but they're all just like old 60s Hammer horror things and stuff, and nothing worth commenting on particularly. Oh no, except one thing. I do have one thing I have to comment on. So, have I talked to you before about, in murder procedurals, the concept of castle rules?
Yeah.
Yes. Which Castle didn't invent it, but that's when Trish and I started noticing. And it's this idea that when you have somebody who shows up and is introduced just for a second for no reason and then is never in the episode again, they're going to turn out to be the murderer.
Especially if it's a known actor, you know that.
Yeah, well, back in the day, especially if it was a famous person in a relatively small part. But nowadays, it's just like, oh yeah, this is my assistant. They found the body, and like you talk to them for like 2 sentences, and then
Yeah.
they never do anything or show up, they're the murderer.
That's them. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm watching this movie, Circus of Fear from 1966. And there's a bank heist and then a murder. Like the person doing the heist gets murdered. And so the money's missing. And so we don't know. But we're trying to figure out who the murderer is. And it's all these circus people. And we have a lot of suspects because everybody's got it. It's one of those where everybody has some weird secret.
Yeah.
And I figured it out about halfway through via Castle Rules, because we finally figured out the murder weapons were the throwing knives of a famous circus performer who died 10 years ago. And he didn't really have any family except one son, and he made sure his son didn't grow up to be a circus person. He wanted him raised as a gentleman. And I'm like, oh, so it's Eddie. Because we also have Eddie in this film, who's the circus's assistant accountant, and who very much wants to be part of the circus, and he only ever shows up to show new like comedic tricks he does that seemingly are just comic relief but really unimportant. And that is the defining characteristic of his character, is that he wants to be in the show and nobody will let him be in the show. And so as soon as they say this, I'm like, oh, that's who it was. Guess who it was? Was it
Eddie?
Spoiler alert. Yeah. So it also has Christopher Reeve in a movie where he's in a hood the whole time. Not Christopher Reeve, Christopher Lee.
Oh.
In a hood the whole time. And I'm like, that's a waste of Christopher Lee. And then I realized, first of all, later he does take it off. But the hood has giant holes for his eyes and a pretty big hole for his mouth. And if you can see Christopher Lee's eyes, you know it's Christopher Lee. Like, he can be wearing a mask. You couldn't necessarily tell by the voice because he had this horrendous Eastern European accent, but like you could immediately be like, oh yeah, that's Christopher Lee's eyes. He's staring into my very soul. That's definitely him. So, but yeah, Castle Rules goes back a long ways, even to the 60s.
Yep.
All right. I was going to draw a thing, and I did. This is from Craig. Craig, just so you know, it's been a couple weeks now, and I think I finally solved it. Gmail is really convinced that your comments on the blog, themagicaltalkinghat.com, where everybody should go and talk about what you hear here and whatever else you want to talk about. Gmail is really convinced that the automated emails that get created when you make a comment are phishing. Doesn't think that for other people's comments, doesn't think that for several times when comments have been made that clearly are phishing, but it thinks that for yours. So I think I finally found the right button to say, I know who this is, knock it off. So congratulations. Craig says, do you have any family recipes that were passed down to you? This is a tricky one for you.
Why is that?
Because you eat weird. So you may have recipes, but even if you did, you couldn't eat most of them, I'm betting.
Well, my family, I mean, everyone outside of me and my mom, very picky eaters, right? So, you know, she could only make like a roast that didn't have any kind of seasoning with it, maybe salt and pepper, potatoes, salt and pepper and margarine, you know, whatever. I mean, she didn't really make things that required a lot of culinary skill, even though she had culinary skill, because
interesting.
Nobody
children
would.
I have found that most commonly, especially back in the day, you eat what I cook, and children learn to pick it up from there.
Well, but see, Dad wouldn't have eaten it. See.
Yeah, and that carries some weight.
Yeah. So there are lots of things that she would have liked to make that would have actually, because she had cookbooks and everything, and you could tell in other ways that if she was able to, or if someone would eat it, she could make some pretty interesting and spectacular dishes, maybe things that she ate when she was growing up, because her parents weren't as picky as dad and the rest of my family, but she just never did it because I would have been the only person who would have eaten anything. What that leaves is the only recipes that I could possibly have would be like baked goods, right?
Okay.
And so I do have cookie recipes that my mom had, that my mom and my grandmother had for sugar cookies. Although they're really, I think technically they're tea cakes. I mean, they're cookies. I mean, they're round but they're cakey. I don't know how to really describe them. Sugar cookies is what we always called them. But I've looked it up, and I think if you wanted to see a recipe for it online, you'd have to call them tea cakes, I think. And also pumpkin cookies with a nice glaze on top, and also, you know, her version of monster cookies and peanut butter cookies and chocolate chip cookies. She had her own versions of all of those. So mostly cookies, I guess. I think
And
I
do you make them?
Oh yeah. I mean, I haven't for ages because
You're allergic to cookies.
no, because they're all with regular flour, and my wife doesn't do wheat anymore. So haven't for a very long time. Although she's really good at coming up with wheat alternatives. Like, she's made some of mom's cookies, and I mean, you can't help but them be just a little bit off texture wise.
Yeah.
But just
there
a
are
little
some
bit.
really good flour alternatives I've discovered over the years. Coconut flour, almond flour, rice flour, of course.
Oh man, it's just, I mean, we've had some really good
Beef
versions of mom's,
flour.
but I don't do it because I don't really.
You
All I know
dry
is
out some hamburger and then you grind it down till it's a flour.
I don't make them because I don't. My wife knows all about using this, that, or the other flour and adding certain things to it. Also, when the kids were here, one of the kids couldn't have eggs, so
Couldn't have anything. One of your
yeah,
kids was allergic to all food.
right. Mom's not all foods, but mom's
Pretty darn close.
My mom's recipes weren't vegan. He had to have vegan everything. So my wife figured out ways to replace the eggs in ways that you really couldn't even tell. I mean, it was pretty amazing. So, so yeah, I have all those recipes from my mom. Mostly, yeah, cookies. I think probably a pie crust recipe too, maybe, and maybe some cake recipes too. But you know, I haven't made any of it for ages because of the flour thing, and before that because of the vegan thing. But my wife has always been able to adapt most of them, and so I've had mom's cookies and stuff altered to be something that the kids and or my wife could eat, and it's often been pretty good. But it's also kind of a challenge. You have to have the right stuff, and also it doesn't always work. For some reason, you can get just a little bit too much of this, that, or the other thing, egg replacer, whatever it is, and it won't come out perfect like it did the time before.
Here's what you do. You make them just normal, like your mom made them. I'll eat them. I will take care of that for you.
You would like them too, because mom was amazing with that
I
stuff.
would think.
But yeah, so recipes passed down mostly that, because there wasn't anything else that mom made that my family would eat.
Yeah.
What about you?
Well, you know the answer with us. A lot of people know the answer with us.
Oh yeah, because you guys put out a recipe book.
We have now put out 3 iterations of our cookbook, and they are all comprehensive of the previous ones. And especially initially, it was largely a collection of our family's recipes.
Yeah.
And so the first iteration had a lot of the things that we liked. There was a little bit more of Trisha's family than my family because they kind of didn't get their act together the first time around. But then it was added more later. But we also added ones that Trish has made that we like. And it varied. Like, there were things that Trish found online that we liked, and so it became a regular that we would eat, and so we made it a thing. Things that when we would get like the HelloFresh or the Home Chef boxes, if we really liked a recipe there, we would have it multiple times ourselves, and we would put that in there. And occasionally times where Trish just invented shit and it was really good. So
Yeah. Yep.
but it's also got like I love that the first one had both our families' meatloaf recipe, because we both grew up in families that had meatloaf often, and that was very much a staple in our heads, and those recipes are incredibly different. And they're both good. They taste nothing alike. Yeah, so we have been collecting those in a cookbook, which has been really cool.
Yep, we've got it.
Trish's family in particular is really about handing down family recipes. Like, most of the family recipes have the name of the relative attached, and some of them are old enough that they're mentioning relatives that I hadn't ever heard of otherwise.
Oh, wow.
And they get like famous ones. So like spaghetti casserole is in there, and it's a baked spaghetti thing. It's really good. It was, for most of history, exclusively a dish at funerals. In the small town where my mother-in-law grew up, her mom would make it at funerals. When somebody died, everybody brought food or whatever, and she'd make it. And it was very popular, which is very tricky, because are you going to murder somebody to get it? You can't. But and then finally at some point, the story goes, there was a funeral, and the local minister who does the funerals came up to her during, like, afterwards at the reception or whatever, and made her a deal. He would trade her one of his wife's genuine, like, award-winning recipes, because she competed in competitions, one of her secret ones, if she would give him the recipe for spaghetti casserole. And so she did. She traded it.
Wow.
So we've got that in there, and it's really good, and it's really filling, and it's really easy to make and freeze. And then when you want to eat it, it's just throw it in the oven. It's a casserole. It's very much a casserole. But yeah, lots of weird things like that, and all sorts of things. A special punch that one family member used to make at holidays. And there's a lot. Every holiday has a lot of traditional dishes with my in-laws, and most of those recipes are in there. So like orange fluff, because every Midwestern family has that one salad that's made with a lot of whipped topping and crap like that.
Yep.
And gelatin, and theirs is orange fluff, is what it's called.
Yeah, ours is strawberry fluff.
There you go. And there's a very specific bowl to this day. You have to make it in that bowl.
Okay.
And so you have to figure out who's making it that year, and they have to get a hold of that bowl. But we have the recipe for that in there. That's good stuff. I mean, I don't ever cook, but I eat it, and it's good.
Yeah, my sister makes. I mean, I think the only person now who makes my mom's and my grandma's recipes is my sister, and it's always just like desserts around holiday time.
Yeah.
Different types of cookies and peanut butter balls and things like that. I mean, that's it.
Some of it. Growing up, I believed that, well, there were in fact 2 different kinds of spaghetti you would have in my house growing up. Grandma's spaghetti and Grandpa's spaghetti. And Grandma's spaghetti was, to me, a very sort of platonic ideal. There was ground beef in it. It was very tomato-y, spaghetti. And Grandpa's spaghetti was disgusting. Mostly because 2 of the prominent features in it was the meat were cubes of steak, and there were a ton of green olives in it. And I hated it. And then I got screwed up one time because I had the opportunity to, I don't know, I was asking for a meal, but I said Grandma's spaghetti, and they made the shitty kind. And I found out that Grandpa didn't have a spaghetti. Grandma's spaghetti was the shitty one, and the other spaghetti was just something my mom had thrown together and that she did consistently. So just the other night, my mom's going to visit my sister because she's got some appointments in town, and she's going to stay an extra night. And my sister's like, yeah, I had to bribe her with grandma's spaghetti. And I was like, that's the one with all the green olives, right? She's like, yeah. I'm like, so glad I'm not there. Disgusting. I have noted, and I was disappointed in this. I apparently a little bit is my brother-in-law and a lot is my niece. At like Christmas and Thanksgiving stuff with my blood family, like my side of the family, a common thing now is a shit ton of Pillsbury Crescent rolls.
Mm.
And I love Pillsbury Crescent rolls.
Yeah, they're good.
And I'm really pissed because we did not have this when we were a kid.
Mm.
But now it's just a given, just like at least 2 tubes, usually more, for a group of like 6 or 7 people, maybe. Like, it's huge. By the way, Pillsbury Crescent rolls, vegan.
I think we knew that because I think we used them. We found some vegan, fake hot dogs, and we used them for like pigs in a blanket or something.
This is what happened at New Year's one year. Coffee made pizza rolls, and she's like, and they're vegan, although I didn't mean for them to be.
Oh.
Because she just intended for them to be vegetarian, so it had like tomato sauce in it and some spices and some fake pepperoni, which was vegan.
Oh.
But she figured they'd be vegetarian because of the bread from the other. But then they read the thing and they're like, actually, they're vegan. So
no cheese in it, huh?
There either wasn't cheese or something. I don't remember. There may not have been cheese. They were really tasty though. But I remember she said they're accidentally vegan, and we were like, "What?" She's like, "Yeah, I didn't think crescent rolls were vegan, but apparently they are."
So, yeah, I think we did use them for something once.
I slather them in butter, so that kind of defeats the purpose, I guess. But still.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've handed them down, and I think it's good to. Recipes get lost when people die, and I don't mean because they forgot to pass it on. I mean, it's sort of that, but it's because they're written in pencil on 3x5 cards hidden in the back of a cupboard, not even in a recipe carrier. And even if you can get it, you can't read the handwriting. One year for the cookbook, we had them send things handwritten, and then we scanned them and put them in because we thought it was cool to have it in the handwriting of the original person. Every single one, we also typed out the recipe below it because you weren't reading those. I mean, Jesus, no, you were not reading those handwritten recipes. Like, Grandma Betty was a great cook. She did not have the best handwriting. Like,
well, my mom and both of my grandmothers cooked a variety of things. And like I said, my mom and my dad's mom, it was baked goods that they were mostly had a variety of. If it was like food, there wasn't much variety. But my mom's mom made all kinds of stuff, and none of them used a cookbook ever. They had it written down somewhere, but they had it memorized. My mom didn't even use like measuring anything.
That happened a lot, and it was fun when we tried to get, because some of them weren't written down. And then you try and get them to write down, and they're like, well, you add some cheese. And they're like, how much? Like, enough. There were a bunch of those. Well, and I think I've talked before. So Trish makes experimental casserole and experimental soup.
Yeah.
Which she just throws shit in there. And it sucks because if it's really good, we don't ever get to have it again. But it's good. If it was bad, we don't ever have to have it again. So there's a trade. All right, we're out of time. I got shit to do. It's eye-itching time, so you know it's done. If you'd like to share your recipes with us, which would be fucking awesome, write them on the blog, themagicaltalkinghat.com. If you would like to write in with topics and questions, which would also be fucking awesome, do it. themagicaltalkinghat@gmail.com. And if you would like to talk about anything else, go to the blog. And if you would like to stop listening, don't do that. Listen again next week or watch it on YouTube, whatever. But stay with us, people. Stay with us. Don't you quit on me. All right.